I'd like to call the meeting to order for the purpose of hearing school improvement plan presentations. At this time, a quorum has been determined. Mr. Wooten is in a meeting, and Mr. Sutton is expected. I think Mr. Sutton's expected. At this time, we will stand and hear Ronald Johnston with our invocation and Terry Sessoms with the Pledge of Allegiance.
If everyone would bow their head. Dear Heavenly Father, we're gathered here today to honor you and hear improvement plans designed to help our children, Lord, your children, Lord, who are the essence of everything that is right, humble, and innocent. Lord, we appreciate the opportunity to serve and listen to these plans as they are designed to help our students who face so much adversity but are blessed with such caring faculty and staff. Lord, we thank you for your love and support, and we appreciate your many blessings. And if one doesn't know you, Lord, we pray they come to know you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you both. At this time, I will recognize Christy Stevenson, Executive Director of School Improvement and Accountability, to come to the podium and get us started. Thank you, Christy.
Dr. Smith. Good afternoon, Lady Vice Chair Dr. Smith, Superintendent Cosby, and members of our board. Johnston County Public Schools has 14 schools that have been identified by the State Board of Education as low performing. By state definition, these are schools that earn an overall school performance grade of D or F and did not exceed growth. As a point of celebration, the majority of the 14 have showed significant academic growth gains in making progress towards exiting low-performing status. As a means of district support, monthly database problem-solving and coaching opportunities will be provided throughout the year, as well as the development of school support teams to help with continuous improvement efforts of individual schools. End-of-year summative data, we know, is but one piece of information to convey a school's overall achievement. Other aspects include stakeholder perception data, positive school and community relationships, and educating the whole child by understanding the social emotional needs of all learners and families. Tonight, our schools will share with you their plan for continuous improvement, addressing all aspects. As a part of general statute, low-performing schools must present plans for improvement to the State Board of Education. Prior to submission, schools should present their plans for stakeholder feedback and feedback from the local Board of Education. Links requesting stakeholder feedback have been posted on the school's website, and schools will reflect on their success and opportunities for improvement, as well as a plan for action for you today for your feedback. After consideration of the feedback received from both the board as well as community stakeholders, we would then request that the board approve the school improvement plans at the October 8th board meeting. Tonight we will hear from our final 4 schools. Up first, we will have West Smithfield Elementary under the direction and leadership of Ms. Sharon Bryant.
Good evening. I love my people. Protocol has been established, and I just want to say this afternoon, I will not be before you long. I do just want to take a moment and just recognize a few people who have joined us today. I have with me Miss Danielle Simmerman, who is my AP, but I do want to say Miss Simmerman has been my partner. She is my right hand, my left hand. She began this journey with me 2 years ago as an AP intern, and she and I have been on this journey together for the past 2 years. Ms. Zimmerman is going to also share with you some information that we will be discussing briefly with you tonight. I also have with me our coach, both coaches, Ms. Heidi Joyner, Ms. Megan Parrish. They too are a part of my administrative team. We have our SIT team chair, Ms. Emily Rose, our SIT team member, Ms. Amanda Smith, Ms. Talitha Crawford, Ms. Tamara Ray Brock, because she recently got married. And we have with us our family engagement coordinator, Miss Hadley Lee. So I want to thank each one of these individuals for coming, but I also want to say openly to you all, we could not do what we do on a daily basis without the support that I have from you all the time. So I thank you on behalf of West Smithfield Elementary, not only myself, but our students in our community. Ms. Zimmerman is going to just share with you pretty much what's in the presentation, but there are some additional documents that are linked within the presentation so that you can just have those readily available to you. I would imagine that whatever I just did turned that off. All right. So, Christy, I'm assuming I should press the one that's going towards the left. Is that correct? The right. Got it. Thank you. It's funny because what they know behind me is technology is the area of weakness that I am continuously working on improvement for myself. But I wanted to just start with a quote that kind of sums up who we are and where we're going. And it reads, "Keep a determined eye on creating a sustaining the system in such a way that enables every child in every classroom every day to love literacy and learning and to achieve his or her hopes and dreams." That was written by Fontes and Pinnell. And I want to say that is what we use around our literacy framework as we are on this journey. A few of the glows also that I want to share with you is how we're using some of our funding. The foundation was put into place to continue building a culture of reading, because what we know is this: we can do anything, we can put all the material in front of a student that we can give them, but if we do not instill the love of reading into them, then this journey is going to be just that much difficult. So we have invested in $10,000 worth of books purchased for our media center, $6,000 worth of books for classroom libraries that are culturally diverse for our students, multiple read-alouds taking place throughout the building. We have educator book studies for our staff last year, where staff had the option of choosing between 4 books, and if you were to click on that link, you will actually see the books that was of choice. We are continuing that study this year because, of course, we as the adults, as the lead learners in the building, we have to be lifelong learners as well. And then the beginning of our Fontes and Pinnell classroom implementation, that is actually in your presentation, where it just shows you our journey, and it says WSE, Fontes and Pinnell, which says FPC implementation plan. That gives you an overview of what we have done. We started this journey in the fall of 2018, and it just gives you an idea of where we are, where we began, and where we're planning to go as we implement our reading, our love for reading, and making sure that our teachers have the curriculum that they need in order to get our students where they need to be. I also want to just talk to you about some glows. We do have a collaboration lab for students, and if you get an opportunity, if you haven't been by the school, the kids love it. It's a place that they get to go, they own, it's theirs. It is creative, it's innovative, but most of all, it's utilized for the students in various capacities. Every teacher last year, and we will continue this year, created a learner profile that is given to every student the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. Our students have a news on the air where it's led by students. We use Capturing Kids' Hearts, so we shake our students' hands every day, but it's not just we're just doing this because Capturing Kids' Hearts say we should shake their hands. It is intentional. It is part of that social emotional learning where we're trying to get a pulse when we see them and we look at them. What is going on with them? Is there some extra support they're going to need today before they go into the classroom? We have a calming corner in every classroom. Last year, our school, as a school, we actually went through the resiliency training. As you all know, we are an avid school. We are one of, I want to be accurate when I say this, actually there's only 2 right now elementary avid schools in the state of North Carolina. We are one of 2 avid schools. We do have our avid college corners. Students have their binders and organization. All of our leadership team attended the Avid Institute, and we actually utilized our funds so that the Avid actually came in and trained all of our teachers. I do want to go back in preference with that, the importance of the professional development. So not only with Avid did we have Avid come in and train our teachers, we also had Heinemann come in and train our teachers on how to use the guided reading sessions and the literacy components that we have purchased, along with the Capturing Kids' Heart. I do believe that we can put things in front of teachers all day, but if we do not give them the adequate professional development that goes along with it, that's not fair to them either. Our coaches have attended the training as well so that we can continue the onboarding. Hopefully, we will continue to keep down our turnover rate so that the onboarding process will just not be as encumbersome, and we can just continue this journey as we go. I do want to say, although we have not exceeded growth, but I am very confident in the staff that we have. We're going to get there, but we have met growth for the past 3 years. I feel like this one is a true glow for us. We have a very diverse adult population in our building, and I just want to say we have 76 staff members that's classified and certified. In that 76, we have 14 males in our building. We have 23 African Americans in our building, and we have 7 Hispanics in our building. And if you want to know how that kind of correlates with our population, we are around 60% Hispanic, 23% African American, around 7% white, and around 8% other. So we are very proud that over the past few years, as we have had people to go on to other places, that we do look to diversify our staff, not only ethnically, but also male, female population. It's very important. Growth opportunities. We want to continue to focus on our core instruction through Fontes and Pinnell core, literacy, and math investigations. We are focusing on data-based problem solving to inform our classroom instruction through data-based decision, and focused on strengthening our SEL team in order to better meet the needs of our students. I do want to go back and just kind of highlight the SEL component. This year, we have hired on staff. Last year, we were fortunate enough, we had a part-time social worker from the district, but we received a grant, which last November, and it gave us a full-time individual. And the impact that made on our school, it was just absolutely numbers. I have shared the numbers before with the board of the impact that she was able to make and the connections with the community and the family. So therefore, this year we hired her full-time. We used Title I funds, and we have hired her full-time, and she's continuing that journey with us. In addition to that, we have hired a social emotional learning interventionist, Mr. Joseph Batts, who's been with the district for quite some time, but he brings to us a wealth of knowledge and already has been able to help us intervene with some of the students who are having a lot of emotional concerns. And as we look ahead, our goal for this upcoming year, we are going to increase the percent of students' proficiency in reading from 38% to 50% by June of 2021. Our goal is, as you can see, that's 2021. Our goal is to at least get from 38 to 45, and then by the second year, I even hope that we exceed the 50%. And that is realistic as we continue to be more strategic and intentional in both what we're doing in the classroom and also as a leadership team, what we're doing to provide the support to our staff. We're also looking to increase the percent of proficiency in math from 37% to 50% by June of 2021. So this is our overall school goal. An area of Another goal is, this is where we talk about the leadership team, and although it says the principal, of course, I rely on my assistant principal and my leadership team, but we will be closely monitoring curriculum and classroom instruction regularly and provide timely, clear, constructive feedback practices. Goal 2, increase student social awareness and emotional well-being data from 62% to 70% by June of 2020. This is from our Panorama survey. So we want our students to be more aware and have and be confident in who they are. We find a lot of times, even just shaking their hands in the morning, things that we have to remind them of is the importance of, when we shake hands, that eye contact. But we also have to be very vigilant of culture, because in some cultures, looking me directly in the eye is a sign of disrespect. And so we have to find that balance to make sure that we are making sure that teachers are not reading what our students are doing with us incorrectly and making judgments on there. All teachers are attentive to students' emotional states. Staff will guide students in managing their emotions and arrange for support and interventions based on students' social and emotional needs. Goal 3, increase the percent of African American students' proficiency in reading from 10.2% to 21.3% by June of 2020. Now, as you can see, this is one of our subgroups, and we have said that for this one, not 2021. We would like to see this increase by 2020. And with the team that we have, the staff that we have, I'm confident, I'm very confident that if we stick with our plan, our strategic plan, we can make this happen and increase the percent of African American students' proficiency in math from 2% to 15% by June of 2020. We, of course, like everyone else, we are implementing a tiered instructional system that allows teachers to deliver evidence-based instruction aligned with the individual needs of students across all tiers. And increasing student achievement. How will we increase in student achievement? We will be embedding MTSS process and instructional model within our lesson plans and PLC meetings. Administrators are actively engaged in the PLC and using walkthrough tools to have coaching conversations with teachers. Coaches are in the classroom to model and provide support with data-based problem solving. And we have adopted the Fontes and Pinnell classroom belief on core instruction. We have added an additional planning time for each grade level in the mornings to discuss data to plan our win time. Win time for us is what I need. It is the remediation acceleration time. I do want to note that during that time when teachers are planning, we have a designated grade level each morning for 45 minutes that our SEL team and administrators are meeting with. And we're just having conversations with students. Now that we've gotten started, we're using data that the SEL team is tracking from the week before to see if there are certain behaviors that need to be addressed by grade level so that we can have that time as administrators and the SEL team with those students in the morning while teachers are using data to plan for that what I need, which is we call our win time. And we will continue to incorporate AVID strategies within the instruction. What SEL strategies are in place? I mentioned earlier we have a full-time and part-time social worker as well as a full-time SEL interventionist. Most people in the past have known this person as being a behavior specialist, but we like to have a positive outlook on it, and we use the term social emotional learning interventionalist, and we use, of course, our Capturing Kids' Heart. What we need from you. We have been working the past 2 years to invest in the purchase of curriculum and the professional development to support our staff. We are asking for the support, for the continued support for us in this process because we know that it will benefit our students. Later on, at a different time, I would like to have discussions about maybe some broader issues that we could discuss, reassignments, district lines, and the flexibility of Restart. And in addition to that, also the number of special need programs that are added into schools that are high risk. Thank you, and are there any questions?
Well, I just want to commend you on this plan. It's very detailed. I think you have an excellent roadmap to success. I love the fact that you are an AVID school. That's the philosophy around it as well as the practices are so important for these children. And the diversity, thank you for being mindful of making sure that your staff is diverse. Children need to see people who look like themselves in those positions. As I was reading through your plan, I like the emphasis on rigor, the depth of knowledge. That's where you will knock the ball out of the park in terms of test scores. And the fact that as administrators that you will be a part of those PLCs. It takes a whole team to raise a child. And so we want to thank you and commend you for that. And last but not least, congratulations on having met your growth.
Thank you.
I also want to commend you on spending that amount of money on books. I've got some friends currently doing research about moving away from the digitized format as students receive this type of instruction, because the digitized format in itself is a distraction. And I think if we go back to the old way of doing things where you have nothing but a book in your hand with the illustrations, whether they be there or not be there, you're going to get far more out of that text than you would if it was just on a tablet format. Now, I was reviewing your data trends as they go back to 2012. And if you guys look at the student achievement and the test scores, they were on the way up until 2016. And we made the calendar change, which kind of took some things away from you guys as far as the frequency and intensity of the duration you had your students throughout the calendar year. So with that being said, obviously, that's not what the discussion is here tonight. You want to improve your school and you have a plan based on the parameters we've given you. But what can we do to replace that frequency and intensity needed to keep these children engaged? Because in your particular community, in my particular community, our particular community, you know, we have our own set of struggles. And we have things going on in our community that, you know, other communities don't have, where these children just face a tremendous amount of adversity every day. So what can we do to kind of keep that frequency and intensity up? Because I think if you go back and look at data, and we talk about data a lot on this board, 2012, we were all on the way up. And I believe whenever we had the calendar change, we started on the way down. And, you know, I think the comment from, you know, the current employees at the time is, well, we hadn't seen much of a difference. Well, we were 1% up, 2% up, and now we're hitting it on a very big valley. So, you know, do you have any thoughts on that, Ms. Bryant?
I have looked at the data trends, and you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned the decrease from 2016, and as you said, that was the year that we changed the calendar. We've had that conversation as well. You know, of course, we know that did have an impact. We do believe that that had an impact on, because our students were in school. They were out of school for a shorter amount of time. And when they're out of school for a longer amount of time, they're not always, and not by any default of parents, because they're working and they're doing the very best that they can, but they're not always getting that same support that some other districts, areas may receive whenever they're out for the entire summer. It's one of those conversations that I do say that we're not opposed to having, as far as, is that something we need to consider? I also want to note that we've had some changes in our school. That year, which was also the year that we kind of switched over from being year-round to on a regular calendar, that was also that first year of being restart. And so I think there's just a lot of factors that conversations, and it would probably take us a while to really dig through the various components and trying to really figure out what is in the best interest. I'm going to say that by no doubt that I feel like I have, and I can say this, and I've said this to you all, I have a great staff. And what bothers me is that it's really hard when you see those numbers and everybody doesn't understand what goes behind those numbers. But yet and still, what we know is we still have to hold ourselves and our students accountable. And as a leader, our goal is to get those numbers back. It didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to happen overnight for us to get back to where we were. But I will say that if we are allowed to have some flexibilities, if we are allowed to continue to work through our productive struggle, because even as a staff, when in the past we didn't have a curriculum, we have a curriculum now. And so just having a curriculum alone, we talked about teachers using teacher pay teacher, but when I came to elementary school, which was completely new for me, and I'm going to own that as a leader, elementary was a new world for me. My background's high school, middle school, and military school. And so as a leader, learning that, and these people standing in my corner supporting me and helping me through my productive struggle, I do believe that if we are just allowed to continue on the path that we're on and continue receiving the support, that we need to do what we need to do for our students, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Because what we need is not what someone across the tracks may need. And so that flexibility is crucial for us to be able to have.
I just have a couple
Thank you,
of,
Ms. Bryant.
I'm sorry. I just have a couple of remind me questions. You do still have the food program in the summer, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am,
And
we
you
do.
have the share table, which you're the trendsetter who started that, which takes care of a huge deficit in so many of our children, not just in your school, but you did something about it, which is a marvelous commendation. And then you have an after-school program now run by your staff.
We do not have that. We felt like we needed to wait, because sometimes if you try to do too many things at one time, you're not going to find yourself successful in any. But we are in the process of trying to partner with someone who, actually, Ms. Whittington has been working on that for us, that we would have an opportunity to have something like an after-school program at our school this year that would help us target some of the students that are under TSI and utilizing our staff to do that.
Very, very good. I just want to ask, we revised the policy to help your school and others in, shall we say, the less
Financial.
affluent areas to have a program that parents could afford. So when you talk about things you need from us, if you find that we have overreached or not reached far enough, by all means, let us know that, because our objective is to make it possible for your students to have an extended day, which makes a tremendous difference when those extended days are structured and teachers and assistants are there to offer homework help, tutoring, those kinds of things. So do let us know that when you get to the point of implementation, let us know that.
I will. Thank you very much.
Just want to make a couple of comments too. Thank you for sharing this presentation. Thank you to the staff for being here. You don't just have support at school, you got support right here, right now. And what a wonderful thing. We appreciate everything that you've done so far. Like Ms. Sissom said, looking at diversity and making sure that that happens in your school. What a great job that you've done with that. We appreciate that so much. When the calendar went away, the year-round calendar, and we asked, what could we do to replace that, and your school decided Avid was the direction they wanted to go. Y'all made some wonderful presentations, all pumped up, excited. Now everybody's had training, professional development. What does everybody think about it now?
We are absolutely still in awe over Avid. I think I can speak for my staff. I feel very confident because I do have part of the Avid leadership team behind me. Each year we have had a different area of a focus, but we're making sure that we're maintaining. Last year we focused more on the organizational piece. This year we're focusing more on the 2-column or the note-taking process, because we find that's very much important. So it has not gone away. We are just as much on fire about Avid today as we were 2 years ago when the calendar changed and we were given the opportunity to find something that would not necessarily replace it, but something that we would make sure that our students would still be enhanced in an area. So I still believe that Avid is definitely the correct path that we need to be on for our students.
We can't wait to see what happens next.
We can't either. Our goal is to be an Avid showcase school, and I'm confident that we are going to get there.
So just a few comments as well. First off, thank you for having the passion, every single one of you, to take charge and instill a love of reading for your children. As educators, we know that if we can ingrain that into our students, that they're going to farther in life even as adults, and you do create lifelong learners. Second, as a middle school teacher, and you know this, that avid, you are so getting them ready for middle and high school. So I can't wait to see what your cohorts do as they move up through the grades. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Our second school to present tonight is Smithfield Middle School under the leadership of LaShonda Faison.
Welcome, Ms. Faison, and your able assistant.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And I see the chair, he's not here. But thank you for allowing us to come and have the opportunity to speak to you about our school improvement plan. I first would like to recognize my administrative team, Mr. Thomas Callan, and Ms. Michelle Deo. Unfortunately, she was not able to come with us as she had a prior family commitment. And we'll first give you our one-pager. And when you receive the one-pager, you'll see that it will outline our 3 goals that are derived from our FAMS needs assessment, as well as data from various sources. I want to start off with a quote. Focusing on the whole child is changing the world. It changes the world one student, one classroom, one school, and one community at a time. And I believe our mission at Smithfield Middle School, we are trying to develop the whole student. We're addressing not only the academic needs of our students, but also helping to foster their social and emotional well-being as well. So with that, one of our glows, sorry, let me get my words right, glows, is how our staff at Smithfield Middle School, we've been strategic to try to address the components of the whole student. One thing I'll first start off with talking about nutrition and the efforts that we have implemented to help our students meet that sound basic need. With the community eligibility provision, we are now 100% free and reduced lunch, and we've been able to offer free lunch to all of our students this year. And our daily average is 530 meals, and currently our enrollment is 614. So that is an overwhelming majority of our students. In addition, we also offer free breakfast to our students. We've done that for the past few years. And one of the initiatives that we changed in the past is now that our students, they no longer go to the cafeteria for their free lunch. We have 2 serving stations located in various areas in our school. And we've seen a significant increase in the number of students that take part in our grab and go breakfast. There's no longer the stigma of walking into the cafeteria and everyone knowing that you need that meal. All the students are engaging. So our number's a little low, it's 270. Our highest was about 365. So again, a lot of our students, we are able to provide that basic sound 2 meals a day for them. In addition, understanding our population, we believe that we need to increase the number of opportunities that our students can engage in throughout the day. A lot of our students, they don't have transportation to get to and fro school. They rely on the buses. So during the day, we've offered new organizations. We've offered our broadcasting this year. We've had some Girls Who Code and Lego League. So this is something that we take pride in. In addition, one way that we are focusing on the whole student is through our nights our school-wide PBIS acronym, we gathered input from our students as well as our staff to look at the different features and characteristics that we want all of our students to embody as Knights. And luckily, a lot of the attributes that our staff and school selected, they relate to the IB learner profile, as we are a candidate school for the IB program, and we're taking strategic steps to implement that in our school, as well as if you look at the portrait of a graduate, those align very seamlessly. So we take pride in understanding that we are developing those central 21st century skills that we want our students to own as they matriculate throughout the world. And another opportunity or grow that we had was through the Project Positivity training. Myself and our 2 school counselors, we were able to attend. We haven't purchased the program due to some budget restraints. However, the vision of Project Positivity is building those relationships and helping students also understand the skills that they need to be better, productive citizens. Secondly, we understand that we need all hands on deck when it comes to improving our schools. And we are increasingly trying to increase, well, but we're trying to increase family and community engagement. One of the we did purchase, well, not purchase, but we did use our Title I funds to support a parent involvement coordinator, and he's also a translator, as about 52% of our students are Hispanic and speak Spanish as their primary language. So we have increased the number of families that we are able to invite for our family nights. We have one in the fall. We actually have one October 17th. We'll send an invite. And we'll also have one in the spring as well. And we love the number of parents and families are able to visit and see the wonderful things they're doing, their students are doing, as we try to make sure that those activities are student and standards based. We also understand that sometimes there's a lot of barriers to walking into the school, and we want to be active in our community. And we try to partner with different organizations. We've been out to the flea market to provide supplies, as well as the Food Line of Selma. We've gone there 2 years in the summer for their back to school bash. So it's wonderful for us to be able to show our faces in the community, as we need their support and they need ours as well. In addition to another source of support is through the town of Smithfield. They've given us funding over the years, and most recently we've purchased new gym wall padding, as the Parks and Rec, they use our gym, and we welcome different organizations to use our facility. And a wonderful partnership that we use naturally is the fellow SSS Strong Schools. We work together collaboratively to help our students have a smooth transition from elementary school and from middle school to high school. So we take pride in that alliance. And we also host our 3rd Generosity Feeds. It would actually be in the spring this year compared to the winter time. And some of you actually participate in our EOG encouragement videos. We want our students to know that the board and other community leaders, they are invested in their success. I want to mention some of the glows that are revealed from our achievement data. So this year, our math performance composite increased from 27% to 34.9%. So we are very proud of that accomplishment, as our teachers, our students have worked really hard to address that area, as that was a need. With our 6th grade math, it went from 23.6 to 32.2, and 8th grade math went up 16.5 points to 33.5. In addition, we did meet in all in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade reading, but with the proficiency for our 8th grade reading, it went from 34.5 to 50.5. And granted, we did not meet growth this year. We met it in read all 3 6th, 7th, and 8th reading. We met it in 7th grade math and math 1, but in our 6th grade and 8th grade math, we did not. However, we did grow. And I failed to highlight that our 7th grade math, they exceeded growth for 2 consecutive years. Another glow is looking at our student perception data, as our number one priority is to improve the well-being of our students academically and socially. And 87% of our students believe that it's important for them to do well in classes. So that's beautiful. Hopefully we'll get to 100%. 80% of our students believe that they often come to class prepared, and that's something that's important as well. They need to make sure they're prepared to access the curriculum. 79% of students said they are often polite to adults, and I thought that was beautiful, especially considering that we are working with middle schoolers. And 77% of our students, they say they put forth quite a bit of effort during the school day. So those are some positives when looking at our achievement as well as our student and staff perception data. And with our growths or our opportunities for improvement, I'll highlight them as I move through the 3 school improvement goals that we have. And as I mentioned on your one-pager, you'll see the 3 goals, and you may have a bit more information that's projected on this slide. So our first school improvement goal by June 2020, the percentage of 6th through 8th grade students proficient as measured by EOG and EOC data will increase from 43.9% to 46.9%, and all subgroups will meet or exceed growth as measured by EVOS. And on your one-pager, you'll be able to see the specific breakdowns for reading, math 1, and 8th grade science. I also wanted to bring your attention to our performance and EOG and EOC data. So our composite, it did increase from 2018 to 2019 to 42.1% to 44.3%. In reading, we did see a drop, so that's an area of opportunity from 46.7% to 45.4%. And in math, I did highlight that we did increase from 27% to 34.9%. In math, we did drop about 3 points from 73.3% to 70.1%. And then in our math 1, we did increase. The next slide, it looks at the performance data. Last year for our math letter grade, we did have an F. And as I mentioned, we did improve to our performance score of a 42. So looking at our proficiency, it improved, as well as our growth index. And with reading, in 2015 and 2016, we were C's. We were 54D last year, and then we did drop. So that's an area of opportunity for us as well. So with that, our school leadership team, we take strategic efforts to make sure we're addressing the central components to improving school performance. And one of the key initiatives is understanding that we have to teach to the curriculum and the standards. We make sure that our teachers, when we walk into the room, their standards should be posted. They do submit weekly lesson plans that they explain what standards are addressed. And they also complete course mapping in which they have to map the entire year. Of course, they're going to adjust due to inclement weather or other situations beyond our control, or even students not grasping the concept when we first expose them to it. So a continuous focus on standards is one of the steps that we are strategic with. In addition, we are an AVID school, and we take pride in making sure that our students are reaching their full potential and giving them strategies to access curriculum. So we engage in full focus note-taking school-wide, as well as Wicker strategies. And those Wicker strategies, there's an area on their common lesson plans in which they can fill out the different components to Wicker. I also did mention that we are at IB candidate school, so our whole school is involved in the process of making sure that we're meeting the expectations for accreditation. And I did say that we have a common lesson plan, and also we've introduced our IB unit plan template to our staff as well, and we make sure that our AVID strategies and with IB, it's a high rigorous curriculum, and AVID having those strategies helps those students access it as it's school-wide. It was refreshing when we went to leadership this summer. As a district, they had a lot of sessions on the PLC focus, and there was also a district PLC handbook that was created. Luckily for us, the transition was very seamless, as PLCs are ingrained in the culture at Smithfield Middle School. So we've strengthened those PLCs. We've made sure our staff understand that this is a district expectation, not just a Smithfield Middle School thing. And we protect the PLC times for our staff, as well as we have a set schedule that the teachers know that they need to follow to the T. And we also provide our staff with opportunities to engage in data days. So they're continuously looking at the data to cater to the needs of the students. Our second school improvement goal, it addresses our low-performing subgroup of students with disabilities. That's our only subgroup that has an F. So by June 2020, we want the proficiency of that subgroup to increase from 17.2% to 25%. And I also have the NC IndiStar indicator provided as well. And when you look at our students with disability subgroup, you'll see that they've met growth for the past 2 years. It's the proficiency that we have to address. And it's when we have these conversations with our staff, we explain, we know our students are growing, but now let's take it to the next level and make sure that they are exposed to the curriculum. And a lot of times with students with disabilities, of course, we're exposing them to the curriculum, but we're also working on their IEP goals, and it's important that we don't lose sight of both of those when we're providing instruction to those students. So one thing that we have conversations with our students. In order for them to grow, they have to know where they are, and that helps us with the students take accountability of their learning. So we make sure that they are exposed to their MAP scores. We also conduct NC check-ins. We're adding the 8th grade science this year. And all of our teams, they provide common assessments. That's another PLC non-negotiable. So with even understanding their data, they have to goal set. They have to figure out what they want, what they need to do to improve. So that's something that we have to be strategic with this subgroup and all of our subgroups, to be honest. We do have an overtime remediation period, and that's where we strategically group our students. The teachers, they have their math scores as well as their science scores, or math and reading scores, as well as their MAP scores. So then they are able to group students, and we rotate students about 4 different times a year. And as I mentioned, we have to continue to expose them to the core, as well as provide targeted interventions based on the unique needs of those students. And we are a TSI school, and we have 6 staff members that are participating in the ASCD learning and coaching model. Matter of fact, our consultant comes next Monday for a scheduled visit. So that's another way we are addressing this subgroup. And lastly, we have a school improvement goal focused on the social emotional well-being of our students. So by June 2020, we will increase the percentage of students who feel that they have at least one adult who knows them well and shows interest in their education, from 60.66% to 65.66%. So that is where we are looking at our SEL. And we looked at our school student panorama survey. It was administered last spring. So 48% of our students feel like they belong at school. And some of this data kind of hurts my heart, because that's less than half. And I wish that they knew that we want them here, and really the school exists just for their own sole purpose. 44% of students say that people at the school understand them as a person, and 34% of students feel connected to the adults at the school. So this is something that we have to address, and and it starts with building those relationships with students and helping us communicating to them their value. So our action steps, we have a STAMP period on Monday. So STAMP is Students Tutoring and Mentoring Program. All students in our school participate in a curriculum, and this year our curriculum is based on the IB learner attributes. So students being reflective, being balanced, being principled. So this is one way that we are able to build connections. As the students, they have one teacher, and most of the time the students don't have that teacher as a core instructor. the groups of students are 6th, 7th, and 8th, so they're mixed. So they're able to, this is the only time in the day when students are able to meet other students from various grade levels. So that's one way that we are trying to have students feel connected to one adult, and they'll have that STAMP teacher all throughout middle school, ideally. We also created a social emotional learning committee that is led by our school counselors, and they participate in district SEL meetings, and they come back to their SEL teams to guide our next steps. This past Friday at our professional development workday, we showed our staff resilience, and that looks at the impact of traumatic childhood experiences and how it affects them in the classroom. And ultimately, when students feel that they belong or they are able to connect and build relationships with adults, that's what they need to overcome and be resilient amongst the different battles and barriers that they may have. We've worked with different agencies, Alliance, the Frank Porter Graham Child Development Institute. Last spring, they came and provided staff development to our teachers, and it was more of a focus for the staff to think about their stress levels and reflect and how they respond to students. So the SEL training is two-way. It's not only about the students, it's about the staff as well, and you have to make sure that you're training the adults to understand or evaluate their needs so they can be productive teachers and positively impact their students. We do provide school-wide PBIS incentives. We're actually in the first round of our PBIS incentive in which the students are going to earn a school dance based on their behaviors in their class school-wide. So we've actually asked students what type of incentives that they would like, because student voice and choice is critical, and we want to instill that learner agency in our students. With our professional developments catered to social emotional learning, we do provide opportunities for students, for staff, to learn strategies in our staff meetings as well as on our professional development work days. One positive reinforcement that we're implementing is Daughters of Worth and Notes of Hope. It's a set curriculum focused on females, in which they receive an inspirational card once a month from a person in the community, and it says, just give some positive affirmation. So that's something that we're implementing. One of the counselors and I, we will attend training soon regarding that initiative. And we hope to start some mentoring partnerships, because we know that students, of course, they hear what we have to say to them every day, but it's powerful when you're able to get other people to enter your building solely to help our students. And we will administer a student and staff social emotional learning survey 3 times throughout the year to have ongoing and current information regarding our SEL efforts. So, as I mentioned, I think we have to take an all-hands-on approach to positively impact our students. And one of the things that I was thinking of that I feel will be helpful for our staff, and I've communicated some of these ideas to leaders in our curriculum and instruction department. But in the spring last year, our teachers, they were able to go to PLC days, cater to standards-based teaching and learning. It was late spring, and our teachers love that opportunity. And I asked someone, are we going to start that initiative earlier? Because they need to be able to talk to other teachers in their subject area and grade level throughout the county. And I've been able to talk with other principals and try to coordinate some opportunities for our staff, but it would be beautiful if we had more of those days ingrained. And secondly, looking at our intervention core resources, we are working hard to expose our students to the curriculum. We're even looking at the standards, but sometimes our teachers do face difficulties with looking for different resources. And of course, they are able to talk with other teacher leaders, but it would be nice to have some set core intervention resources catered to math that are research-based. And secondly, sometimes I have teachers that they're beginning teachers and would like for them to go to a specific math training. However, the current infrastructure that we have for professional development, that's not how it's created in Johnston. And I think that would be beautiful if there are some ways that we could have ongoing professional development that is targeted to specific content areas. And our school theme for this year is Dream Big and Lift Off. We want our students, we want our staff to have high expectations. We know that we have to work together. It's not only the students, it's not only the parents, it's not only the staff, it's not only community partners, it's not only central office or the board. We all have to understand that our impact is profound as we are trying to positively impact our future generation. All right, that's it.
Thank you so much. Are there comments, questions?
So I love what you're doing at Smithfield Middle School. Smithfield Middle was the second school I taught in as a teacher, and I went from Riverwood Middle to Smithfield Middle, and it was by far my favorite school because there's the staff you have is phenomenal. The resources that you're putting in their hands is phenomenal, and the way that you have broken down your student population and can really relate to them and try to overcome some of the obstacles that they have personally is inspiring. So thank you so much for being so passionate for your school and your students.
You left off one glow. That's you. I mean, you are just glowing up there telling us all about this. You have definitely dreamed big, you and your staff, and an amazing presentation that you gave us today. The nice thing about that community is there is so much community support. I mean, that is such a blessing, and you're utilizing it. I mean, the Daughters of Worth, what a great idea. And I know there are so many community leaders that would be thrilled to take a moment to do something like that. The mentoring partnership, you know, some of the schools that have tried that has paid off hugely. So I know that will happen in your area as well. 34% not feeling connected to an adult. I can't believe with all this that you have here that that's not going to change tremendously just in the next year. You have so many great things going on to connect these kids to other adults, not just their normal teacher. So just wonderful. Great increasing family, community engagement. Anytime the families are engaged and then they buy into what's going on and give that extra support at home to make sure their kids are at school the next day, it's just good, just phenomenal. Thank you.
I just want to thank you for the time that you've put into this plan. It's detailed, it's a roadmap for success. I think you're going to hit the mark. I don't have any doubt about that. I also love the fact that you see that AVID is not in conflict with being an IB school, that it's a way of scaffolding for those students so that they can reach the rigor that they need with IB. So you're to be commended for that as well. And I just look forward to seeing the change that happens in terms of the social emotional learning piece. I see that it hurts your heart, you know, that you have students who may not feel that they belong. And, you know, the fact that they have leaders who really care about that will make the difference. So thank you for what you're doing. You have 4 people sitting up here who are former Smithfield Middle employees, and 2 of us were there when it was still Smithfield Selma Middle. So, so we know that school is in good hands. Thank you.
When I talk to teachers about Smithfield Middle School, just people out in the community, it's a total different environment than anywhere I have ever taught as a teacher. And it's because everyone there pulls together for the common good of the student. And it's not that other schools don't do that, but I think that Smithfield Middle staff goes an extra step. The AVID program, the IB program, the Daughters of Hope, all the stuff that you're putting in place to help those students be successful, your students be successful, our students be successful, so that their future is brighter than what they thought it could be when they come there.
You know, if the Board of Education wouldn't have voted to put a school resource officer in Smithfield Middle School, I wouldn't be here. So I'm sure that's one vote they regret, but I'm joking. No, I'd like to point out that you have a wonderful thing going. And when we were visiting Smithfield Middle School, I think several of us observed the fact that you probably have the least amount of turnover at that school, because it's been 7, 8 years since I've been there, and there's a lot of the same faces still here. The transiency is just not at Smithfield Middle School. The teachers stay. And also, one thing that's been ever present is the school resource officer. And Mr. Baker came in and talked about safe and orderly environment and how that impacts. And I'm sure you can attest that having Officer Stewart in his steady presence is a huge attribute to the learning environment. And also, when you talk about the female initiative, that's wonderful. And I think there's a very important thing we can point out, that Smithfield Middle School has a rich history of putting some of the best female administrators in positions to succeed and help those students. If you go back to Ann Meredith, Tracy Peden-Jones, Jenny Moore, Heather Anders, and now you, I think that that's kind of a story to be told within itself, how, you know, women are empowering women, and you guys have got it figured out. One thing I would appreciate it if you would do is, you mentioned something about the current structure of professional development and how you think it could be improved upon. Did I interpret that correctly, ma'am? Okay. If you would, I believe Patty Whittington is your area superintendent. If you would, if you have ideas on how we can improve our current structure of professional development, that would be wonderful if you could get with her and she relay it to us, kind of follow that proper chain of command, and then we can do what we can to help you in that aspect. But thank you for everything you do for the community in Smithfield Middle School.
Thank you.
And I just have to say how proud I am personally, for reasons not related to Smithfield, but related to Clayton. But I just really appreciate your dedication to getting people in that school who can help students. The STAMP program, I love the acronym. Those things matter, and in the long run, you may not see it tomorrow, but that impact will be there for years to come. And that purpose, that intentionality is really appreciated, so thank you very much. Any other comments for the good of the order?
Teresa said she was blowing, he's blowing too.
Good, good. Thank you both very much. Wonderful presentation. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And best wishes. Is Wilson's Mills ready?
Your cohort just left the room, but when she comes back in, would you introduce her? Because some of the board members may not know who she is.
Certainly will.
Okay.
So I am thrilled to introduce this lady. This is Tamara Thomas. She joined our team in July. She is our Director of School Improvement and is doing a fabulous job working with our schools. So I will let her tell about her background.
I'll keep it very brief. Good evening. I'm excited to be here. I really am. And there's just so much work we can get done in our district. So I hail from NCDPI, working as a instructional review coach, conducting CNAs in districts and schools across the state of North Carolina. And prior to that, I've worked as a principal, district director in Durham, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm originally from New York. And so I'd love the opportunity to do one-on-ones and dig a little deeper into my background. But thanks for having me. Really, thank you.
Yes, we are.
Now say her name one more time.
Tamara Thomas. No.
Not at all. You could sing it tomorrow.
Thank you, Tamara, and welcome. Thank you so much.
So up next, we have Wilson's Mills. Miss Andrea Jones will be presenting their plan. Hello, everyone. How are you? I would like, am I doing this clicking here myself? Okay. I would like to introduce my team that has come with me. I wanted to get it on the right slide. It's
jumping? The right one, right? It's going, it's missing slides. Okay. Okay. So, I would like to introduce my guidance counselor, Mr. Foote. And I have Patty Sela, our sit chair. And I have Susan Fikes, our IB coordinator. And I have Katie Olmstead, and she is an admin intern, and she is also a curriculum coach. And I also have Carmen Young, and she is one of our gold chairs and a 4-5 reading teacher. And the reason I was looking for the slide is because it had a graphic and a picture of what we were representing and how we want to model what we're teaching. And so I'm sorry you didn't get to see that. So we've all heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And one of the things that it's hard for Wilson Mills to hear is that we are a low-performing school. Because at the same time that we hear that, we will also receive a letter from the governor congratulating us for our wonderful growth that we have received. And so, you know, perception's reality, and this is our perception, and I wanted to start with one of our glows. And this is our math EVOS growth. And as you can see, we met our growth last year and this year, and we also have a 3-year average of exceeding our growth for math. With our reading, we had to do some growing from last year because we did not meet our growth in reading. But this year, we have met our growth in reading, and our 3-year average is that we are still meeting our growth. So we like to celebrate that as well. We have met growth ever since I've been principal at Wilson's Mills. We've exceeded and we have met growth. And for the last 3 years, our growth index has increased. And one of the things I like to highlight is the fact that we more than doubled our growth this past year. And we are very, very proud of that. Our science growth we've met our science growth for the last 3 years. And our proficiency in science was one of the highest in the county, if not the highest, and we've increased by 18%. And we were very proud of that as well. Our reading proficiency, actual proficiency, increased. And one of the things we're very proud of is all of our subgroups have met their growth, and they met them last year as well. And our Hispanic subgroup actually exceeded their growth. We have a very strong PTA at Wilson's Mills, and ever since I've been principal, we have received the Ruby Award for every staff member who has been a member, and our growth keeps on growing, and we are going to get another award, I'm sure, again, and we are already over 100 members again for this year, and we keep growing. We have a wonderful PTA, and we were honored, and we are the only school in Johnston County that was honored as the National PTA School of Excellence. And we had to do some things to make that happen. It was with the parent involvement and getting some surveys done. And so we were very, very proud of that as well. Wilson Mills is now a candidacy school for IB. And I realize now that this is the wrong slide, that this is not the right one that we have, so I am sorry about that. We have made some changes, and that is not the one that was put in there. We are building very strong relationships by looping. Our school is considered a looping school, and we also have been really been focusing on leadership. And we took it upon ourselves to really embrace the 7 habits of Covey, and we're very, very proud of that. Growth opportunities. We need to still focus on that reading core. We need to be looking at that and continuing to make it strong. We're continuing to build our reading fluency. Our fluency, we started a fluency initiative last year where every student made a fluency goal and tracked their data. And we think that that increase in that tracking really helped with our reading growth, because if they're not reading fluently, it's going to be hard for them to comprehend. So we've made that tie, and we're going to continue with that initiative.
One of the things that we were disappointed upon was our access data and the effect that it had on our school grade. And that's something that we're going to have to really look at. And so we've made some changes with that. And we are really looking at that data and really looking at the fact that it's our speaking and our writing that's really affecting them. And even though they're exceeding in that growth and they're making those strides, we really need to focus on that. And so our ESL teachers really working with our teachers to look at that data, to really dive into that access data, which we really haven't done before, and really try to make the changes with that. You know, we have to track our data of our two subgroups, our students with disabilities and our Black subgroup, and come up with a plan. And we have come up with some plans because that, you know, they have enough, and that's why we're a TSI school, and we have to improve on that. So, so looking ahead, our first goal is that we are going to be increasing the student reading proficiency from 38% to 41%. We want to increase it and go above. You know, we are focusing on that multi-system tier of support, implementing to shape and guide that reading. We picked it because of what our EOG data is, but it's also because of the FAMS and that we really needed to focus on that problem-solving piece as well. How we're going to get there, we're going to have those PLC monthly checks. We are going to be checking in. We are going to be focusing on MTSS, really tracking and looking at that data, and specifically looking at that reading data and coming up with a plan of action, meeting with the teachers to say, okay, if they're not growing, then what are we going to do about it? You know, taking time to really look at the PLC agendas and making sure that they're aligned, to look at that information diagnostic data from MAP and from Lexia. We're going to be doing data dives next week in our PLCs and really making adjustments to our instruction and letting that data really drive our instruction. And we're also looking at the flex time. We have incorporated a sacred time for remediation that's serving all needs of students outside of the core, just not our remediation students, but our students that need to be accelerated. And we're going to be using that data also to drive. And we also have a set of, I call them the 6, but they're resource teachers from 2 ESL, 2 EC, and 2 literacy teachers that are going to be pushing in and really helping with our Tier 3 students during that time so that teachers can really focus on the Tier 2. We're also going to be having coaches in the classroom to model and provide that support. Our second goal is to really track our reading performance data and focus on those 2 subgroups that have that F, our Black and students with disabilities, and increase their reading achievement indicator by 5%. It's easy to say, okay, we're just going to track that data. Well, it's more than just tracking that data. We're going to have to come up with a plan through the Lexia and through MAP and really look at those skills and say, okay, what are we going to do to fix that? And it's really going to be in that small group instruction and outside the core and during their guided reading groups that we're going to be focusing on those skills to build that. To accomplish that is we're also really going to be focusing on that fluency and focusing on how our subgroups, our students in those subgroups are going to be handling during that fluency and meeting with the kids, meeting with them, letting them continue to set the goals that they need to do and letting them understand that their goal that they make is not only helping increase the goal in their classroom, but by meeting that classroom goal, it's meeting that SMART goal for our school and showing that connection, and that's important for them as well. We're working on that 30, 60, 90-day plan that we learned at leadership of how we need to build strong PLCs, and we're going to continue to do that as well. And then we're just involved in the IB professional development and making sure that teachers are able to tie in that mindset of inquiry-based learning and how that's really going to grow our students as well. Our third goal is the social-emotional piece, and that is really We took that from the panorama. We want to increase it from 64 to 68%. We noticed that the self-management skills were the skills that they were one of the lowest, and you have to have the self-management skills to grow them as leaders, and that's one of our important goals that we're trying to do. And so with that, we have incorporated the SEL screeners that we got from Cooper, and we're going to be doing the screeners, and the teachers are going to be answering those 10 questions to really help guide, which ones of our students are needing that more support, and we're going to provide them that tier support. Mr. Foot's going to be a part of that with his relationship committee, and they're going to be focusing and coming up with how we're going to give that to Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. We also have a time embedded in our morning meetings. Every morning, everyone's doing a morning meeting. We were trained on Sanford Harmony. Mr. Foot worked on that with them at the beginning of the school year, and that's a tool that we have that are going to address their social emotional needs. We're also, doing the 7 habits with the children during that time. Mr. Foot got a partnership with Post Center, and Post Center comes and works with our 5th graders once a week, and they're going to cycle through and see all of our kids, and they're working on all different types of skills and emotional things that they help with their teachings. And then we have that partnership with Alliance. We already watched the movie Resilience, and we're looking at, the ACE scores and the tragedies that kids have to bring and face each day. And so we are, relying on that training and remembering that we can make a difference in those kids' lives, and that's what we're doing. And we're continuing to utilize that learner profile in both the academic and social emotional learning, because we have to get to know the students. If we don't get to know them, then it's going to be hard to teach them if they don't know that we care. So we're continuing to do that. And I'm sorry, this is not the right PowerPoint. We had it nice and lovely, and somehow it just is what it is, and we'll get you the right one. But so what do we need from you? We need time and collaboration. When new programs come, a lot of times things come and go very, very quickly, and a lot of times things come and we might not have had the collaboration that we might have wanted, and we just need time to see things through, and the resources to see things through, and making sure that we keep it so that we can see whether or not it really worked. So that's our presentation, as best as it was with missing a lot of pieces.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.
I hope I did it justice.
You did it justice. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Comments from the board?
Yeah, I just want to hear a little bit more about how you loop in your school. What does that look like?
So the teachers at my school really, truly just embraced it. I went to them with this idea because when I was a classroom teacher, I looped from kindergarten to first and then from second to third. And actually, 2 of the teachers, Patty and Katie, were one of the ones that just embraced it first. And we started small. We started in kindergarten, and I got a few core teachers to do it, and they just embraced it, and they quickly saw that how quickly it just built relationships and how they didn't have to spend the following year with so much with behavior. And then slowly it started to trickle. And last year and this year, we've had full, complete loops. 2nd and 3rd grade right now, 3rd grade's such a challenging year, and we may wait to just see if we want to continue, because you also have to look at the data. I mean, the relationship piece is great, but you have to also look at the data and make sure that it's making the change that you want, because it's a lot of work. But then my 4-5 team, they're so unique, and they're so special, and they're so wonderful. My staff is wonderful, but one of my 4-5 teachers, they came to me with an idea too, and they said, we really like this looping, but we also really like to do what we're doing, and I can promise and tell you, you've never seen anything like this of what they're doing. So they teach 4th and 5th grade at the exact same time, and I have 2 science teachers that are teaching all of the science for 4th and 5th grade. So not only are they looping, but they're also teaching 4th and 5th grade. And Carmen was lucky to be able to loop with one of her classes that did a special PBL project that was very inclusive, to include all on playground equipment with some of our students with disabilities. And it was that kind of relationship that just made it so special. And we've really enjoyed it, and we've loved it. I hope it continues. Yes.
Well, first of all, I have to say congratulations on the growth. You know, while the state may not see growth as important as I do, growth is huge.
Yes.
Anytime that we can move children forward, that's a good thing. So congratulations on having met that growth. I love the use of Covey. I don't know if Mr. Foote remembers this or not, but he and I did Covey a long time ago. We did together. And, you know, if you can build those habits by building character, everything else takes care of itself. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
That's what
so-
we're seeing.
yeah, and, you know, you're just building capacity within your building. You're growing leaders out of those children.
Well, that was the key. We're about leadership and, you know, having them own their own data. And you have to teach them to build that capacity, and the 7 Habits did that for us.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for doing that. That's near and dear to my heart. I followed your links for your curriculum maps. I am so impressed. You are a working school. I mean, you just get in and make it happen. So, you know, just kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
worked really hard on that last year.
Well, number one, congrats on the growth. Congrats on the PTA award. And you mentioned you needed time. And fairly speaking, that you guys in the elementary level have had a lot of things thrown your way with the grading system uncertainty and all the stuff that went on with that a couple years ago. And I think that maybe we spread many of our educational institutions from elementary to middle school a little too thin on how the state wanted us to do things, how we wanted to do things. And I think now that we're in a place where we're back to basics, which is really going to benefit someone with your curriculum, you know, go-getterness, for lack of better words, as Ms. Sessom mentioned, when we go back to your student achievement and safe and orderly environment, because it seems like that's what you ladies and gentlemen are getting back to with the looping, breeding that familiarity among your students and having that consistent environment, which is all about student achievement and the safe and orderly, disciplined environment. So thank you for everything you're doing, and we look forward to the great things you'll do with, like you said, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I echo everything that everybody already said. Great things, growth, that's amazing, 3 years average. Proficiency in science. It boggles my mind, and I'm not an educator, so I don't understand it, but it boggles my mind how we can be so proficient in science but not reading, because you have to read to do the science. I don't know, it just blows my mind. But anyway, congratulations on that as well. I think you have the commitment from everybody here that we want you to have the time to do the things you do. We know we've had a lot of changes in the short time that we've all been on the board. There's been numerous changes, and it's hard to move forward. It's hard to excel at something if it changes before you excelled. So I think that we're all committed to making sure that you and all the other schools in the county have the time that they need without numerous changes to make things go forward. I think that's one of the ways that we are all going to succeed, is to just try and keep some stability in some of these programs and everything else so that you can do it. But great job, you and your staff.
Thank you, thank you. One question and then comment. Your remediation time collaboration, are you talking about across school collaboration is needed? We've heard that before, and I'm just wanting to clarify what your request is for collaborative time.
It's the collaboration that when we get new programs, when we Like, a lot of times we get the feedback of, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? But maybe more collaboration with principals, with other committees about the types of programs that we get. Does that make sense?
It does, and we've heard that before, so I just wanted to make sure you weren't talking about within your school during the day. You were talking about the collaborative,
Yes.
cross-school gathering ideas and learning from each other. Very good. And then my other comment is, I am impressed that you have dedicated 6 staff out of your, sometimes what we
It
would like to
was-
call pitiful allotments,
Yes.
to really meeting the needs of students. I mean, 2 ESL, 2 EC, and 2, is that literacy
Literacy,
coaches that I wrote down?
Mhm.
That really does speak to your commitment to meeting the needs of all children, and I really commend you for that. I think you will pay big dividends.
I think so too. We're looking forward to that, and they're also my data problem solving team as well. So we have the flexibility to really meet and look at the data, to really address and meet some changes, to look at the fluency initiatives, and we basically had to build our master schedule around that, being dedicated to them devoting their time for all grade levels to help.
Excellent. And then the last thing is talk just a little bit about the Sanford Harmony Project.
Those are kits that Mr. Foote got for us from the county, and they were free. And it's just a kit that really helps the classroom teacher with any social emotional skills that they're using. Just quick lessons, and it just helps with our morning meetings. And it was a free resource that we actually got from, was it Dr. Allen that showed you? Yes.
Good,
And then
good.
we took advantage and got them all for our teachers.
And I know about the Post Center and 7 Habits, so you've really wrapped your arms around children's needs, and that, I think that too will pay big dividends. And I'm really impressed that you brought your core teachers and your counselor tonight. We appreciate your giving up your evening to come spend with us. We appreciate your dedication. Any other questions?
I do have one more. The, every student making a fluency goal, are the kids embracing that? Are they doing a good
Yes.
job? I mean, I have
So-
adults, if I say, give me a goal, it's not.
What was interesting is when we did this fluency initiative last year, invited parents for our first data night. I actually did a Connect Ed and said it really was an option. You just needed to be there. And we had, oh my goodness, close to 400 people there. It was the largest that we ever had, and we made it really short, simple, sweet. This is how you're going to help your child. This is how you can help your child grow. Pretty much almost every child met their goal from what we saw. And yes, they loved it. They embraced it. They got excited about it. When the teachers didn't stop, drop, and do that 6 minutes to fluency, they were reminding them that they needed to do it. We were making charts to track it. And so they knew their goal, and they knew whether or not they met their goal. And the good thing is the parents understood it too. So we made it short, simple, and we're going to continue that too.
That's awesome. John Hattie's research says children tracking their data is a huge,
Yes.
has big dividends, so thank you for doing that. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
right, thank you
Wilson's
very
Mills
much.
Elementary, thank you.
And our final presentation of the evening is Cooper Academy with Mr. Jamie Stoke.
All right. Thank you again, Ms. Stevenson. Good evening, board members and Dr. Cosby. It's an honor to have an opportunity tonight to highlight some of the successes we've had at Cooper Academy. I've certainly learned a lot the past few months as I've transitioned into the Cooper family. Allow me to introduce some of our Cooper family members. Sitting to my left, we have our fabulous administrative team with Mrs. Tammy Poland, who is an assistant principal at the school and has done fabulous things there, not only as an administrator, but also formerly as a teacher years ago as well, teaching kindergarten, correct? And then we also have Allison Price, our administrative intern. She's joined our school from the high school setting, so she's back at the elementary world where she used to be at West Clayton Elementary School, if I'm not mistaken. And we have Miss Kate Rizzo is our school improvement team chair, and she's also a third grade teacher at our school site. And Miss April Wood, who is our vice chair for school improvement team. And Mrs. Wood is a preschool teacher. Can you stand up, Mrs. Wood? They can't see you around the podium. There we go. So I'm very thankful that they were coming here tonight to support us and our presentation. And of course, at the end, if I have any questions that I can't answer, I'm certainly going to call on them to assist me because, again, I'm fairly new at Cooper Academy at this point. Just looking at the presentation that we have here, we did want to highlight the student and staff demographics right out of the gate, just to give you a snapshot of what the school is entailing at this point. And I just put trending up or trending down if I saw any slight trends. Really, there's nothing that jumped off the page there as far as dramatic trends at any stretch of the imagination. I will say that our total student population continues to trend up, and we're at approximately 650 students with 6 mobile units on our campus. And if you've been at Cooper recently, you've seen how they've cleared the entire area all around the campus. There's going to be a large residential community going in right in front of us, and so we're expecting over the next few years to continue to have that overall student population increase. As far as the Splash and dual language program, I figure I'd highlight this a little bit. We are one of 3 elementary schools that has the Splash dual language program, along with Polenta and Selma. And Selma, of course, was the first school in the county to have that dual language program. This just highlights how many students we have participating by grade level as of just 2 days ago. We have a total of 173 students across the grade levels. That's 27% approximately of our entire student population that's participating in dual language, and it's a 50-50 immersion program where they're 50% of the time in the Spanish class receiving their instruction, and 50% of the time they're in the English class. So they alternate by day. So essentially they'll come in one day and go to a class and they're receiving all of their instruction in Spanish for the entire school day. The next day they'll go to their partner teacher across the hall or side by side, and they're receiving all of their instruction in English for that particular day. And of course, the students that you see in the upper grades with 4th and 5th grade, and I got to experience this last year at Riverwood Middle School as a site principal with the 6th graders that came up. That was the first group that entered middle school. They're quite proficient in their Spanish capabilities at that point. And so we're hoping to continue to grow that. So the first group that went through Cooper now is in 7th grade at Riverwood Middle School. As far as staff demographics, again, I wanted to reiterate what West Smithfield stated earlier this evening. This school has worked extremely hard to have a staff population that mirrors as closely as possible to the student population within its building. And you see that with the staff breakdown here. We have 25.9% of our staff African American, 20% Hispanic, 54% white, and certainly you saw in the other data that closely mirrors, and we're continuing to seek out qualified candidates, certainly. And like other schools have alluded to, we want to have that good male and female balance as well within the buildings. And it's tough to find males at the elementary level, but we do have 16 total male staff members, 13 of them being certified staff. Highlights or glows, however you want to refer to it. Certainly, growth is what we're all about, folks. We've been saying that from day one, from a decade ago when I stepped foot in my first principalship and learning from Dr. Smith herself about student growth. That's what we want to see. You can't change what's leading up to where they're coming to at certain points in their academic status, their social-emotional status, but what we can do is we can grow them. And honestly, at any school in the county, you can't just grow 1 year's worth of academic growth, because if you've got students that are already behind, you've got to make up that ground somehow. And so our goal, we've talked a lot about at the beginning of the year through our staff meetings and trainings is we're going to grow kids a year and a half worth of academic growth. And if we do that consistently year after year, eventually these students are certainly going to get back to the target that we would like to see them at as far as meeting those benchmarks and meeting those proficiency standards. And you can make it happen. You just have to really focus detailed on the growth and not really worry about the whole proficiency thing for the time being anyway. Cooper Academy did a fabulous job last year, and I want to commend Miss Tammy Poland in particular, one of the leadership team that's returning, and I know that she did a tremendous job working with the staff last year to make this happen. She had this 2 out of the past 3 years, I should say, that we've met our EVOS growth projections. This year, we also met growth projections in reading and math, both subject areas. And that's the first time that that's happened in at least 4 years' worth of data. I didn't go back further than that, but I could see just from the snapshots that we've received from the Testing Accountability Office that that's the first time that that's happened. The other thing that was significant is we had every single subgroup in our building meet their growth expectation, which again is tremendous because it's so hard to meet all the subgroup needs that you have with any facility. And so for that to happen last year, there was a lot of really good things going on at Cooper Academy. And you'll see that the students with disabilities subgroup had the highest growth index in our school. And that, again, I'd like to point out because, again, that is some fabulous data from last year. That's right. Positive trends with student achievement. This is the proficiency piece that we've alluded to as well. We did see increases in 3rd grade reading, 5th grade math, and 5th grade science. So we were very pleased with all those trend pieces as far as overall proficiency. Building relationships with community partners. This has been a huge focal point. SEL components as well as the community partnerships. I know that you're all probably aware, if you were here last year, the big kickoff at the beginning of the year at Cooper Academy, where they had the opening of their STEAM playground. That was a tremendous school and community partnership with different businesses. Floor and Novo Nordisk were 2 of the huge businesses that partnered with the school to make that happen. I know Tammy has been extremely involved with helping with One Compassion Adult Mentoring Program, as well as helping coordinate the Clayton High School student mentors that come to the school site. And so those programs are just getting off the ground this current school year as well as we're entering into October. The STEAM Night for Families, sponsored by NC State. Ms. McClure, our STEAM teacher, has scheduled that again this year. I believe last year she also coordinated that event. And if you want to come out and check it out, I put the date on there so you can mark it on your calendars, November 7th. I'm sure it'll be posted on our calendar once we get a little bit closer and get the exact time on there. First Baptist Church in Clayton has done a tremendous job sponsoring the Backpack Buddies program and providing financial support for our school uniforms and classroom supplies. And Ms. McClure is also working really hard right now to have Adopt a Garden. We have raised garden beds that have been established at Cooper Academy for some time, and she's working with different groups coming out there to adopt those garden locations, and those things are already being planted at this point. Matter of fact, this past 2 Saturdays, they've been out there with different groups working on them, and that way you can use those facilities as outdoor learning labs with our students with science as well as STEAM. Growth opportunities, and what I'd like to also refer to these as is these are going to be the glows for next year, because these are things that we feel like as we reflect on, we're not happy with this, but we're certainly going to come back next year and tell you about all the progress that we made with these areas. We did have a school performance grade, of 43, which is a D for math, reading, and science combined. We're not happy with that, of course. We're not satisfied with that. It was a 36 F for math and a 45 D for reading. We did have certain subgroups that are considered to be at risk because of not meeting their proficiency targets, and that was our African American, our economically disadvantaged, multiracial, and students with disabilities. And then the 4-year trend data, we're not pleased with that either when you really look at it. We were digging down in this in the staff orientation work days and really looking closely at it. And if you don't look at your data closely, folks, you're never going to grow. And you really have to be honest with yourself about where we're going as far as the trends. And the proficiency right now with reading and math is not trending in the right areas. Math in particular is quite disturbing for us, and we're going to be working very hard on addressing those needs. Now, certainly the inter-reading and the curricular pieces and foundations and some things that we're implementing are going to be helping the reading, and the reading has been a relatively strong point for the school, but we've got to dig a little deeper to figure out what the core of the issue is with the math at this point. School improvement plan goals, we've targeted the reading to increase 35.8 to 45% in the 2-year cycle ending May 2021. And so we feel like that's very manageable, and certainly we're hoping to go above that target, of course. Math, 26.2 currently, and we'd like to see that at least to 47% by May 2021. That's a lot of work to do, and I understand that, but I know it can happen. And if we work real hard together as a collective team, school partnerships, I know that that can happen. Get some outside resources in there helping us, but we've got to figure out how to correct the ship, so to speak, with the math scores at this point. Targeted subgroups, of course, we just mentioned these at-risk subgroups. We want to continue to increase them by 10% in the next 2-year cycle. And we have our SEL. SEL has been a very strong point at Cooper Academy. Like you heard just a moment ago, Wilson's Mills referred to the programs and the assessments and things that they've been doing. They had a real strong focus with their school improvement plan the past few years on the SEL components. Right now we have 2 full-time SEL interventionists, and we have a lot of outside resources, of course, that we're bringing in to assist and help with students' needs. Initiatives, we've already touched on a few of these, but just to highlight them, foundations, consistently implementing the foundations for the phonics curriculum and phonics development in the primary grades. Right now, we do have all the resources for K through 2. We're in the process of working to get 3rd grade on board, but want to make sure we get up and running with inter-reading and everything before we overload everybody with new initiatives to start out of the gate. Inter-reading, of course, we've mentioned. We want to reestablish a functional media center as a hub of literacy for the school. That was something that we've had an extensive conversation about. Certainly, when the STEAM lab went in a few years back, there was great community support for it and a lot of resources pumped in to essentially renovate the media center into the STEAM lab. But I think that, we also have to make sure that we're not forgetting about establishing that strong media center program. And that should be the hub and the lifeline of literacy within your building, not only for professional development, but also for the resources you provide for your children. I know West Smithfield just talked about how all the resources that they put into their media center, and I'm hoping we can go ahead and start making some baby steps toward making that happen again. We've got a location that we're establishing right now. We do have a media center coordinator position posted, so if anybody sees this video and is interested, please send your resume. I'll be happy to accept it and schedule an interview. But we want to continue to provide training on all these pieces as far as the digital learning competencies as well. Let's see here, more initiatives. We have used Title I funds to post target tutors to work with grades 3 through 5 students in math and reading, but we're really going to be focused on math, quite honestly. And we've also utilized Title I funds to lower class sizes in targeted grade levels, kindergarten, 4th grade, and 5th grade. And we feel like that's going to show benefit as well as far as overall students feeling that they can have questions answered, needs met a little bit better in that smaller setting, especially those upper grades that are those tested subject areas with the EOGs. Mentor program, we've already mentioned these last 2 bullets here. Family engagement opportunities, certainly we're going to continue to offer those. Cooper has done a really good job the past many years of making folks feel welcome at the school. When I interviewed all the staff throughout the summer and community members, as I was getting to know folks, the one word that kept coming up over and over again was family. And if you haven't seen our staff shirts this year, it does say family. And so that's something we want to continue, is that family atmosphere within the building. Data notebooks and portfolios and student-led conferences, that is a new initiative. That is something that I feel very strongly with, and our leadership team and SIT team had some discussion about it, and we feel like we are in the initial phases of starting to incorporate that at our school site to have students develop a better sense of their own learning, what they do well, what they need to work on. It's okay not to be the best at everything, and then how to set goals. You know, these are all important parts of the growth process, whether it be academic pieces or social emotional learning. And so we're in the process of scheduling those. And we did have a Title I Parent Night the other night with Ice Cream Social, and the teachers did have a curriculum aspect of that night and also explain the data notebooks and portfolios and student-led conferences. And so at the end of each quarter throughout the year, we'll be hosting those evenings and tying it with something fun at the school as well. Certainly continue to work with the MTSS advanced learning coaches that have been assigned and working on the math curriculum. I've really asked our MTSS and advanced learning coach to focus with planning and curriculum development with the math components with our grade 3 through 5 teachers in particular, as well as our K through 2 teachers. I mean, you have to have the foundation, of course, but certainly we want to make sure that we right the ship with math as quickly as possible. We do have targeted populations of staff, 10 staff members right now that are attending scaffolding instruction training as well. And we have our first visit next week where they come out and visit the school site with the staff and see how things are going as far as the implementation of those training pieces. What do we need? Well, from the Central Service Office leadership, continued support on the flexibility needed to successfully implement the Restart School status. That's very important. I know that there was some, I wouldn't say upset people, but I would say that there was some shock as far as the calendar change. You know, I know that we've had the flexibility with the professional learning on the Fridays in the years past prior to my being there. And I know that that was something that I think caught some of the school community a little bit off guard when that change was made in May, I believe it was. So that's something that we need to see if we can talk more about how to work some other pieces into the Restart School status. Ongoing professional development support with core intervention and acceleration resources. We've had quite a few folks in family meetings that I've had already to start the year with students that are exceeding standards already, and how are we meeting their needs? And so that's another aspect of that pyramid that we're looking at as far as how to meet the needs of the students. And then, of course, the tiered instructional systems we've just talked about. What do we need from the Board of Education? Quite honestly, we need building renovations and additional building spaces to meet the needs of our growing student population. The restroom capacity is not sufficient for the amount of students that's in that building. You know, you can say that there's restrooms on the different wings, but when you go actually in the restrooms for students, they're very small in comparison to the new model schools that have a lot more stalls and capacity for restroom usage. And then we have 6 mobile units on top of that with no restrooms for them outside, so they're all coming inside to use those restroom facilities as well. We also have electrical and HVAC issues on a regular basis. And when I say electrical, what I mean is in today's digital world, the rooms that are built in those facilities are not meant to handle the loads and the capacity of charging and things that needs to take place. And so that's something to keep in mind if we can address that over time. I know it's not an easy fix, but I figured I'd bring it up as far as the needs. And then, of course, the collaboration with the growth that's happening around our campus. The thing that worries me most is student safety. We have a tremendous amount of walkers and bike riders already, probably 20 or so on each side of the building. And this is going to increase exponentially once we have all that residential development up and running. And so I've already noticed that we have a lackage of school zone signs and proper crossings and walkways around that campus. And I know that there was a large neighborhood put in not too long ago behind the campus as well. And I think that, you know, the original design of how the flow of traffic went did not have those things into consideration when those residential areas were not there. And so I've already been in contact and had communication with the town council at Clayton, DOT, police chief, and, you know, of course, school system as well with Ms. Dolores Gill, just making sure she's aware of some of the things that we're seeing and noticing. And so as this development takes place, I've even incorporated the builder to come out and take a look at it and have some discussion with him. But that is a huge piece that I'd like to see resolved before those communities are all up and running around us. I thank you very much for your time. At this point, what I would like to do, because I think that they were really wanting to stand up here with me, I'd like to invite my team to come up and stand with me for any questions. Don't all jump up here at once, because they are so instrumental. I mean, these folks make it happen. any questions or comments for us at this time? for the
I know we will, yes. Board members?
Well, first of all, thank you for delving into the data and taking a hard look at it. And your plan is chock full of good strategies. I am thrilled to hear that you are going to be reestablishing a media center. That, as a former literacy coach, it hurt my heart when I heard what had happened. So, good job, good job. Love the data notebooks and the student-led conferences. When I was an elementary teacher, I used those and used them with high-poverty students and saw it made a tremendous difference in helping them learn that self-efficacy piece of pushing themselves forward. So I think you're going to see big benefits from that as well. Also, I want to applaud you for the diversity in your staff. Children need to see people who look like themselves. And so I appreciate the effort that you have put into making that happen. And I also appreciate the comment that you know you're not there yet, that you're going to continue to strive to increase that diversity among your staff. And Kate, I remember when you were a baby teacher. You were one of yes, you were one of my first year teachers. I am so proud of you. It's wonderful to see these ladies here who have developed their leadership as they continue to lead children. And Mr. Stoke, great job on the presentation. I'm glad to see you at Cooper.
Thank you.
I just want to say all of that. But I want to add the fact that you guys are looking proactively forward into the future, especially with the safety of the school and keeping your students and your staff safe. That really warms my heart, so thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Stoke, not being very familiar with you, but from what I gather, you're very strong in the comprehension of analytics and how to improve proficiency and growth within a.
Best.
You appear to have it under control, but I think your comprehension of the data piece and your ability to implement a methodology to improve said data piece, coupled with the passion that your teachers and staff have. And also, you do have the plus of being in the town of Clayton, which is surrounded by companies and entities such as Novo Nordisk, Talacris, and people who are willing to donate time, effort, and most importantly, resources to your school. I think that's just three things that lead me to believe I can expect nothing but success from your newfound placement at Cooper Elementary. Two more things. I stumbled across a thing called LitCon, and when the superintendent at the time went to get information, he was unable to gather it. So any information you ladies and gentlemen could provide about that, I am very interested. Currently involved in a study now where we're talking, she mentioned the media center being the hub, and you heard me when you were here earlier for West Smithfield. We're looking at digitized text versus in-hand paper text, and how the digitized text could pose some type of distraction in itself. And we think that that paper text is more effective in, crystallized data, with accumulation of facts, things of that nature. So that's what we're looking, or crystallized education, I apologize. So that's what we're looking at. So I'd be very interested in learning a little bit about LitCon, and like I said, I think you guys are destined for success with those three things I mentioned before. So thank you, Mr. Stoke.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Stoke, I'd say great job if you had already been there for 5 years with this presentation, but extra great job knowing a little bit of time that you've been there and have been able to dig into the data and come up with a great plan. I know your staff helped you, but that says volumes for you that you just jumped right in this short period of time and did this. We appreciate it. The Clayton High School student mentoring, so you've got students from the high school coming over to mentor
Yes, ma'am.
the kids? What a wonderful idea. It's one thing when an adult comes in and mentors, but when you have a high school student, because I mean, most times those kids are going to look up to the high school student more than they're going to look up to the adult because they got one of those at home already. But What a great idea, and I can't wait to see, what comes out of that. I mean, that's just phenomenal.
That's really been going on for a while.
It has, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's
Been going on
great.
for quite some time.
Every subgroup met growth.
Yes.
I don't think I've heard that yet. That's awesome. Right, just, yes, students with disabilities, just
That's what jumped
incredible.
off the page with me, is the students with disability subgroup had the highest growth index in the entire school, which I've been in a lot of different schools, and I don't think that that's ever occurred at any school I've ever been in.
We haven't heard that, I'll say that. You know, not just the fact that you're in Clayton and have these businesses around, but Cooper has always done a great job with connecting with the community partners, and kudos to continue that. I was there for the STEAM playground when it opened, and that was just an amazing thing. And the STEAM night, I love those, so I will try my best to be there November 7th, because that's always a fun time. But you and your staff did a great job with this. Growth, y'all got it going on. I know the proficiency will follow, so thank y'all for what you're doing.
Absolutely. My heart's just pounding with pride. Thank you so much. Some people might think 1.5 years is ambitious, but I just call it being good to children. And that's what you are all about, is being good to children and making sure those high expectations are followed with strategies. You can say, I expect you to do this, but unless you build that foundation, it's not going to happen, and you all have done that. And Jamie has a track record of many, many, many years of seeing that the track record has the foundation to get there. So thank you so much, sir and ma'ams, for all of your hard work at Cooper Academy, and we just look forward to great next year glows from these grows, and thank you so much for coming. Any other comments from the board?
I'll say one more thing. I hate that Mr. Wooten wasn't here, because when there's a DOT issue, he knows a man. So we're going to pass this little tidbit along and see if he can make great things happen again.
And one last thing about the facility. Those people who bought that property promised some really big, grand restructuring. And so you keep us posted about that movement of dirt around that school. And if it doesn't happen, we can go back and say, now, remember when you said you were going to do this? Because they really did promise some restructuring of entryways and access points and drop-off places. So let's just make sure that we don't let them off the hook, because the board has, the town board has approved their plan.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. You all have a great evening.